Well, it's all done. The Chiefs emerged victorious 25-22 in Super Bowl 58. Travis Kelce summed it up, Colin. He said, "You got to fight for your right to party." The Chiefs had to fight for everything they got this evening.
They did. 49ers were immense on defense overall. I thought particularly on early downs because the Chiefs could not get into a rhythm. Every time it was maybe 1-2 yards. There were plenty of times they were tackled in the backfield. They knocked them out of rhythm. Fred Warner was a huge component of that. And ultimately, it was a bit of Mahomes magic at the end, with the fact that the Chiefs hung around. The 49ers couldn't ultimately get it done, and we'll get into the reasons for that. But the Chiefs find a way. They are inevitable.
And for KC, this game was an absolute perfect microcosm of their season. You had drops on offense, you had frustration, which boiled over at times on the sideline. Travis Kelce bumping Andy Reid at one point in a clip that many people will have seen on social media by this stage. They were really angry with themselves, and they were chippy as they have been all season. And ultimately they leaned on that Steve Spagnuolo defense to keep them in it, just when they might have otherwise been on the ropes. Left themselves just enough room to get back into it, and when you have Patrick Mahomes, that's always possible.
Yeah, I thought the Chiefs defense was magnificent. Really did a great job in containing Christian McCaffrey as much as you can contain Christian McCaffrey, limiting the explosives, which the 49ers are generally so good at, and ultimately getting it done. You saw Karlaftis open the game really strong. It was Chris Jones who came in as the closer. He tends to do that. It gets better as the game goes on. It gets in your face. Hands were in Purdy's face, making life difficult, forcing Purdy out of rhythm. And Spags, look, he deserves so much credit. He got lots of flowers over the last couple of weeks, but they were well earned. And tonight, on that third down play, to use a disguise blitz in that moment, he carries his cojones in a wheelbarrow.
I mean, and that tactical battle between him and Kyle Shanahan, there's going like pieces about that in years to come. I'm convinced of it, because it was just high-speed chess match, as you say, a violent chess match that we know the NFL can be at its best. You start off with Shanahan, probably the most iconically Kyle Shanahan play you can hope for. Play action pass, wide zone flown to one side. Kyle usage pops up in an intermediate route, gets the ball for a big game. You know, well, Kyle is in his bag tonight. But the longer we went through the game, the more that Chiefs offense or defense, as they have done time and time again, learned on the fly, figured out how to confuse Brock Purdy, and that was one of the keys to the victory.
Yeah, it was, and that's where you heard Spags and heard Brendan Daly talk all week about the intelligence of this Chiefs defense, handing stuff off, recognizing stuff before it happens. That was a key to their victory, and I suppose there were some injuries that probably impacted the 49ers. I don't know how fit Debo was when he came back in. He seemed to have one big play, but that was about it. But it was a real chess match. Now, Kyle had moments throughout the game, but ultimately, like, the inability to punch it in just comes back to kind of haunt them again and again. And it is such fine margins when you're talking about a Super Bowl, when you're talking about games at this level, and you're taking on the Chiefs. When you take on the Chiefs, every mistake you make is something they can capitalise on. Now, the points didn't always come from turnovers necessarily. Obviously, they did at times early on. It wasn't going that way, but then there was the fumble, and the Chiefs recovered. And it was just, the longer it went on, the more they hung around. You kind of thought, this is Mahomes. This is what he does. He gets the ball back and he goes down and he steals your soul.
Because we talked about just this in overtime. The 49ers marched down the field. They were goal to go, and it comes around on fourth down, and you're sucking your teeth in as they send out the field goal unit going, giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes here. I kind of think I'd like to go for it, and you've got the pin back, and your defense has been playing well all night. Rather than give Mahomes a chance to kill you, you really need to take your opportunities when they're there, unfortunately, and it's a bitter lesson for Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers to learn.
Yeah, look, I know some people will say the points are important, but ultimately you're putting the ball back, as I said, in Mahomes' hands, and no matter how he's played, it's Patrick Mahomes, right? And it wasn't vintage tonight, but there were times he showed throughout the course of the game, like scrambling ability. I thought on the punch that turned over, Tommy Townsend was given out to the ref. Mahomes saw that it turned over, goes over, escorts Tommy Townsend away. So his leadership is really important to him as well. But to me, I suppose you don't want to put it in. Patrick Mahomes. Like, that was what you wanted. If you were the Chiefs, put it one of the greatest QBs we've ever seen, the man who's chasing Brady. I mean, this is Woods and Nicholas type stuff with him chasing him down. Why would you want him to be going up against your defense with the fact that he uses every ounce of strength, every ounce of creativity, whatever it needs to be? Patrick Mahomes' biggest strength to me is he has been everything his team has needed. When they needed him to scramble, he does that. When they need him to make an intermediate pass, he does that. When they need him to take a shot, he does that. He was far from perfect tonight. You mentioned the interception, but ultimately he came good.
And as the dust or rather the confetti behind us settles, there will be that debate about, well, can you win with Brock Purdy versus what you've got to face when you have Mahomes there? And as you said, his game wasn't pristine. He had the interception, which was a terrible throw, and he would definitely have wanted back if this game had gone the other way. Purdy never made any throw like that, but critically, he never really made a clutch play either. You were really wanting for him in those moments to deliver something that people could point to and say, yeah, that's why he's there. It didn't quite happen.
Yeah, I thought Purdy had an okay game, right? I think there were moments he made decent throws. He did nothing stupid, but he didn't get to scramble as he had in the NFC Championship game. I thought that was a core component of and the reason they were here. He helped them get here. He was a core component of that. But Mahomes had killer moments. Purdy just did not have that, and that's probably why he's not in the elite level. Now, he could take it. I mean, again, he's very young. It's his second year. He can develop, but the difference ultimately was in the QBs. He didn't have a particular. There were moments at different times where if he had been able to pull the trigger, if he'd been able to get it done, it would be a very different outcome. But the Chiefs have Patrick Mahomes. I talked about it before, but it's worth re-emphasizing. The biggest cap hit, the second biggest cap hit over the course of the past couple of years, back-to-back Super Bowls. It's insane. It really is, because you're not supposed to be able to. All the talk a few years ago was your quarterback can only account for like 13% of the cap. If you're over that, forget about it. Patrick Mahomes, my goodness.
There's so many 49ers that you'll feel devastated for, and probably none more so than Christian McCaffrey, who was making a very strong case to be MVP himself if they'd gotten over the line. 80 yards receiving, 80 yards rushing, and he had the TV as well, of course. He was amazing, but there were standard performers all over the field for the 49ers, particularly on the defense. You called out Fred Warner, who was Eric Armstead on 2 sacks. Everywhere guys were putting their bodies on the line.
Yeah, no, they were, and you would, of course, you feel for them. Like they gave everything that they could.
They're so close.
And that's what I love about the sport is it doesn't always come down to this, but there are plenty of Super Bowls you can think of where it comes down to that last minute. The Cardinals obviously are one who look back, but plenty of teams don't ever even get to be here. So I'm sure that the Lions fans and others and the Ravens will look at it. But yeah, I thought it was an immense performance from the 49ers. I think it's no consolation, but they, certainly on the defensive side of the ball, they left it all out there.
I've seen teams play worse and win Super Bowls, and I think that's ultimately where the 49ers will feel right now. They can reload and they can come back, and it'll be fascinating to see where they go next year. It's kind of scary though to think that the Chiefs will have a draft and they'll have opportunities to address some of the deficiencies. They're definitely going to pick up another receiver in the draft. There's a couple of other holes that they'd like to have a chance to fill as well. And they won back-to-back Super Bowls with a team that is nowhere near the best team we've seen wearing Kansas City jerseys over the last couple of years. To your point, that is terrifying.
Yeah, as a Broncos fan, that is, and it is for the rest of the league. It is because as long as Patrick Mahomes, like Joe Burrow and Josh Allen talked about, like their windows, as long as Patrick Mahomes is with the Chiefs and Andy Reid, obviously we're going to have to see how that plays out. Chris Jones and others. So there are things that they have to sort out in the off season. But as long as you have Mahomes, you've got to be one of the favourites every year.
Well, it's the first ever Super Bowl to have taken place in Las Vegas. Maybe not a classic to your point, Colin, but one which went down to the wire, which was intense, which was dramatic, which was as a tactical battle, as we've been talking about, as intriguing as it gets. And won by a walk-off touchdown. I think there's one thing for sure here, and one bet that you're going to win in Las Vegas is the Super Bowl will definitely be back here one day. We hope on the Irish NFL show to be back here for that. In the meantime, that's a wrap for Super Bowl 58.